what I want to do now then is to go really back to basics and look at some of the issues why we know that it's domestic violence, but also all violence to women is wrong. Picking up on some of the themes that Alan threw out, it's interesting how, and I'm researching this recently, really for the last 5 or 6 years, how violence to women is ubiquitous. It's there in almost every culture and every era. And the support systems that are in place for this violent culture, as Alan has just pointed out, in our own culture, but they're there everywhere we look, in every society. So whether we're looking at female genital mutilation, whether we're looking at rape as a weapon of war, whether we're looking at child abuse or child rights, whether we're looking at a whole range of areas of domestic abuse, you'll see it, and it's part of cultures. And cultures somehow acclimatise themselves to this. They become part and an accepted part of the way people behave. Having said that, of course, most of these practices are unlawful in almost every culture. Now there are laws against violence to women, and I was absolutely delighted when the Congo finally got someone through the courts and actually convicted on rape after years and years of actually getting no laws and no justice for women in these areas. So laws are changing, but they're only changing under pressure from people who insist that they must change. That we must see these laws on our statute books in every one of the areas where violence is occurring. But what I want us to do is say why we restored in particular are so concerned about the issues. And we're concerned for a whole bunch of reasons. And it's mostly because of our biblical background. I'll move this over so I can, or maybe I can't. If I move this over. Yes, that's going to work. So, there of course are harmless ways in which men and women relate together. And I love this bit of advice from father to son. Well, some men need women because of some things you just can't blame on the girl. I mean, it's affectionate, it's touching, it's cute. But there are actually some bigger issues, and we need to look at how we are going to approach some of these issues. We need to find out what we mean by gender and what the biblical teaching is, whether it's just a matter of cultural convention, whether it's doctrine, and the Old and New Testament. We're not going to go into all of this at the moment, but, I think that's wrong. Oh no, I haven't, it's fine. We start here, this is where I want to start. No, it doesn't want to, it's going to... it will take me too long to go through all of this. I want to start with a study that was published at the University of Bristol. And I find this very significant because it really outlines some of the issues in our own culture that I was touching on earlier and that Alan alluded to. This was a massive study. 1,300 young people is actually quite a significant sociological study. And they were all teenagers from 13 to 17. And these are the figures that they came up with. And it was such a shock, this particular study, that even the researchers said they were not expecting the results like this. A third of the sample had suffered sexual abuse in the relationship. 90% of them, and these include the younger end as well, had been in an intimate or were in an intimate relationship. And 17% said they were pressured into sex. 25%, a quarter of the entire sample, and these were the girls, reported being subject to violence by boyfriends. And 7% said they'd actually been raped. When, by raped, they actually meant violated quite brutally, with a lot of violence used. When a rape definition was explained to the sample again, a lot of them later wrote in to say, actually, we think we were raped also, because we didn't understand what rape meant. We thought rape meant that somebody took a knife to you, or a stick to you, or beat you as they were having sex, not that you were simply forced into it against your will. They discovered these two particular groups of girls more at risk. Girls with older boyfriends, boyfriends who had sexual experience, who had sexual expectations from a relationship, and then girls from families where they had witnessed lots of violence between the adults, usually nearly always from father to mother. And it's partly because that had institutionalized them into a kind of normality the normality of intimacy includes violence. And already they were immediately at risk, because almost every relationship they had, when violence occurred, or when the men lost their patience, or when they moved into a new kind of control pattern, the women went along with it, because in a sense they had no way of resisting. Boris also